Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
Hi everybody, welcome to this review video. I have been playing all of these games and playing through all of these stories and experiencing it with you guys, and then just kind of like leaving the streams up without any real feedback on what I think is good and what's not. So I thought it's time to start reviewing things. Unfortunately, for my ability to gain authority on the subject, we're starting with probably my favorite video game of all time. But before I get started into this review of Bioshock Infinite, I want to give a spoiler warning. And I mean, like, honestly, this game has been out for 8 years, and if you haven't had an opportunity to play it, why not? Maybe you should question your life choices. But if you want to get caught up, you can always like check in on this playlist. Videos previously are all the streams of me playing Bioshock Infinite. So if you're still with me and you still want to know, is this a good game? What are the cool story beats that are going to happen? Then stick with me and let's find out. So a lot of this gameplay footage that you guys are going to be seeing throughout this video is from Clash in the Clouds, which is the first download content that came out for Bioshock Infinite. It's just wave after wave of enemies style game where you just have to fight waves of enemies until you kill them all. So I figured this was a good thing for just while we're talking. I'll show some gameplay footage of Bioshock Infinite as well, but just preface, this is not the game for those of you who haven't played. Anyway, so the story of Bioshock Infinite revolves around 6 main characters. First, we have Booker DeWitt, a former Pinkerton agent who has been hired by the Lutece twins to go to the city of Columbia to rescue our second main character, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a girl with this strange ability to open tears between realities and kind of bend reality to her own will, but that really isn't apparent at the beginning of the story, but gets more apparent by the end. The main antagonist for the story is Zachary Comstock. This man is the founder and prophet for the city of Columbia. He uses a twisted version of scripture at best to show how God has blessed him and the city of Columbia to be amazing. Then we have like the antagonist to the antagonist, which is Daisy Fitzroy. She's the leader of the Vox Populi, who are essentially the poor and downtrodden of Columbia that tend to get forgotten by pretty much everybody of status in Columbia, which, I mean, as you play, the racism becomes quite apparent. Jeremiah Fink is the owner and operator of a section of Columbia called Finkton. And inside Finkton is where pretty much the working class lives and works. And then Fink has his own lab where he produces what are called vigors. And if you played through either of the other 2 Bioshock games, you'd be familiar with things called plasmids. These vigors are what is Columbia's version of the plasmids. And then the 6th main character, which is also kind of also the 7th main character, are Rosalind and Robert Lutece. Now, I kind of put them that way because they're largely presented as the Lutece twins throughout the story of Columbia. But then when you get more towards the end, and as you kind of piece together other bits of the story, you realize they're actually the same person, just from alternate realities. So Bioshock Infinite starts out a lot the same way that its predecessor Bioshock does. You start with a man and a lighthouse.
Shall we tell him when we'll be returning?
With that chain gun.
It might give him some comfort.
At least that's something we can agree on.
Hey! Somebody meeting me here?
But here we find our player character, Booker DeWitt, being dropped off by two people that seem to have hired him. It's the Lutece twins. But they've hired him to find, kidnap, rescue a girl? After a series of choices being made, because, video games, Booker is transported to a city in the clouds. Why he chooses to sit on this chair is totally crazy to me.
Right. Looks like they expect me to sit in their fancy chair.
Anyway, all Booker knows is that the girl is on Monument Island, but he discovers that the city is involved in a celebration of sorts. So after accidentally winning a raffle, it is discovered that Booker is the false shepherd.
Wait! It's him!
Now, where'd you get that brand, boy? Don't you know that makes you the backstabbing snake in the grass false shepherd?
And all hell breaks loose. Brutal deaths, gunfire everywhere, and some actual fire.
It's getting hot. What's going on?
After sneaking through many of the homes and buildings in Columbia, Booker does eventually find his way to Monument Island, where he finds the girl that is trapped in a tower. But she's being heavily monitored over all of her life, as you see all of these charts and graphs and everything trying to keep track of her. But then Booker convinces the girl, Elizabeth, that she needs to escape the tower with him, and he will take her to Paris, which is where he's been able to determine is where she's been wanting to go for quite some time. What the heck? The Revenge of the Jedi! But not before this terrible robotic beast called Songbird tries to stop their escape. Booker and Elizabeth eventually steal an airship in order to escape to Paris. But once they are finally able to steal that ship, Elizabeth learns that she has been duped and that Booker has no intention of taking her to Paris. The ship then comes under attack and is commandeered by Daisy Fitzroy and the Vox Populi. Daisy promises to return the ship if Booker will help her get weapons from a gunsmith in Finkton. Discovering that the authorities have taken the gunsmith, Booker and Elizabeth seek to find him, but they are too late. Elizabeth discovers that she can open up tears into new realities, but now Booker and Elizabeth make their journey through a few different realities in order to finally get the guns that Daisy and the Vox Populi want.
No.
Dead is dead, Elizabeth.
Dead is dead.
Is dead.
What the hell did...
I see heads.
And I see tails.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Why are you following us? Who sent you? Comstock? What do you want?
What do you see here, from this angle?
Dead.
Listen.
And that angle?
Alive.
Booker.
Oh.
Chen Lin.
This is becoming rather awkward.
The body's gone.
It was never here.
It's another Columbia.
A different Columbia.
The same coin.
A different perspective.
Heads
Tails.
dead.
Alive.
We have to go through to this other Columbia, but
It's like riding a bicycle.
It never really forgets.
One just needs the courage to climb aboard.
Okay, open it.
look. There's no blood.
And no body.
It's another world, Booker.
Once they have entered that reality, the Vox Populi already have the guns and are assaulting the house of Zachary Comstock. So Elizabeth and Booker eventually do turn their sights to fighting Zachary Comstock. There are so many different hijinks. They're not hijinks. They're story beats, but you get future Elizabeth trying to talk to past Elizabeth. You have the fact that Zachary Comstock uses Elizabeth's powers to bring back his dead wife, and she's crazy and starts wrecking the place. You've got Fink going crazy because of all the reality hopping. He doesn't know who you are after knowing who you were the last time you met him, and it gets a little convoluted with all the reality jumping, but eventually you do find your way to an airship called the Hand of the Prophet, which is where Zachary Comstock is. After finally making your way to him and killing him, Booker and Elizabeth have to survive an onslaught of Vox Populi that are also trying to kill Comstock, even though you've already done it. But eventually, Booker and Elizabeth do overcome that, and they gain control over Songbird and use him to destroy the monument that Elizabeth was being held in, because there's a siphon that has been siphoning away all of her abilities. Once that siphon is destroyed, Elizabeth gains like this level of omniscience where she can now see multiple realities happening all at the same time. And eventually the story ends down by a riverside that you've already seen was the baptism of Zachary Comstock. But you learn that in reality, Booker is just another version of Zachary Comstock. And all of the versions of Elizabeth that are awake and have their abilities are traveling through all of these realities to find all the versions of Comstock and put an end to him.
Booker DeWitt, are you ready to be born again?
Why are we back here?
This isn't the same place, Booker.
Of course it is. I remember.
Are you ready to leave behind all
You're
that
not-
has gone before? Wipe the slate clean.
Who are
and
you?
start
You
anew.
chose to walk away,
Washed
but in
the
other
blood
oceans,
of the Lamb.
you didn't. You took the
Do you
baptism.
hate your
You were
sin?
born again as a different man.
Do you hate your
It all has to
wickedness?
end, to have never started. Not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crab.
Smother, 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 smother. Before the choice is made, before you are
And
reborn.
what name shall you take, my son?
He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
No. And both.
Of course, Bioshock Infinite also has 3 download content that you're able to get now. The first was called Clash in the Clouds, which is what you've been watching me play when I'm not showing you gameplay or the footage from the actual game. But it, again, is just waves of enemies that you fight against all over different maps and such. I don't know. It's a lot of fun, but the real meat of the download content comes in the Burial at Sea episodes. There are 2 of these episodes. In episode 1, you play as Booker DeWitt, but now instead of being in Columbia, you're in Rapture. And Elizabeth hires Booker to help her find a girl named Sally. As the story progresses through all that, you make your way to Fontaine's department store, which has been sunk because Andrew Ryan and the Council of Rapture have deemed it a prison and have trapped Atlas and his followers in Fontaine's department store and sunk it so they would no longer be a part of Rapture. After you make your way through all of that, you do end up discovering that Sally is herself a version of Elizabeth, and your Booker is, still a version of Zachary Comstock. But yeah, so you die. Episode 2 of Burial at Sea has you playing as Elizabeth, but she doesn't have her powers anymore because she chose to go back to Rapture to try to save Sally as best she can. But she ultimately decides to aid Atlas in getting back to Rapture so he can have his revenge. There we go.
It's working. Atlas, you feel that? You have your prison break. Now bring me the girl.
So the thing I like about episode 2 of Burial at Sea is now the game is very sneaky because Elizabeth is not a combat heavy character. So the main focus here is to kind of sneak your way throughout the city of Rapture so you can find Sally and rescue her. However, the end of this one ends just as tragically as I think every Bioshock game has ever ended. But it does have a nice tie-in to the original Bioshock, as you see that Elizabeth is the way that Atlas was able to have his revolution on New Year's Eve 1958. So what are my thoughts on this? Honestly, Bioshock Infinite does a great job immersing the player into the world. Whether that's through the random voice lines that you hear as you're just walking through town, the many voxophones that you pick up to be able to understand the world that's around you, the video reels that you find at the little Nickelodeon machines, or even just passing by a radio and hearing the radio broadcast. Columbia really feels like it's a character of the game and not simply like a backdrop for this adventure between all the characters happening. It feels like they really took their time developing out Columbia as it exists. Then there's Elizabeth, who doesn't fall into the trap of being an unhelpful non-player character. She helps by staying out of the way so she doesn't actually take gunfire. She throws supplies at you. She randomly will just throw you money throughout the game. She'll not just randomly die or get stuck in places that keep you from being able to move forward. They involve her in the story that she has this mechanic to be able to bring things into reality that help you, and she is the way you pick locks in the game so you can advance into other territories. There's a varied combat strategy. It's not a pick up a gun and shoot everything that you see. They've built out all these various quote unquote heavy hitters, I think is what they called them during the promotional period of this game. You've got the handyman, who is a tank that can take a lot of damage and does a lot of damage, but if you shoot him in the heart, he goes down pretty quick. You've got the Brothers of Silence, who will instantly kill you, but they have to hear you first, so you have to sneak around them and stay out of their sight. You've got the crows that kind of teleport everywhere all around you, but if you watch where the crows are flying, you know where they're gonna be. You have the sirens, who wake up all the dead bodies that are around them, so you can either spend your time fighting all of the reanimated corpses or fighting the siren. And if you kill the siren, then all of the corpses die too. You get to kind of choose how to spend your time with that. But even in spite of the varied combat, my biggest problem with the game is that you really don't get to choose your playstyle. Unless you're dealing with the Brothers of Silence, there is no way to sneak around the game. It forces you into this heavy combat style instead of being all secretive and trying to sneak through the city of Columbia. You pretty much just walk into a door, say, "Hey, what's up?" and a battle ensues. Then, of course, like, the Burial at Sea DLCs are my favorite addition to any game. But, you know, there's probably a part of me that's just because of the nostalgia of Rapture and Bioshock 1. But even so, it's great storytelling and continues this play style of immersing the characters in Columbia, but now it's in Rapture. All in all, Bioshock really tells a compelling story that fully immerses the player in the world. It seeks to show the player that things are not always as they appear and that perspective actually matters. I remember the very first time I played this game, once Elizabeth woke up, I remember my jaw being on the floor all the way until the credits started rolling. If you're someone who likes discovering the world of a story and you want a story that moves you, Bioshock Infinite is definitely the game for you. Yeah, it's a little dated now as it came out 8 years ago, but it is still an incredibly relevant game with a deep story that everyone should give a chance to. So that's it for this review video. Thanks everybody who's given it a watch. Please give a like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what pieces I missed, what pieces you disagree with, what pieces you like. Let me know if this is something that you guys want to keep watching more of. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next video.